You know,
It's
man.
live now.
Oh, okay, we live, y'all. Hey, listen, this is real radio that y'all checking into. We got a piece already on. You be hearing talking when they get off. We be going on, and this is the part where you kind of get shout out, stretching out. We still dropping medicine though. No, hey, I'm glad y'all tuning in. I hope, hey, y'all should stay with us. We just like y'all. We do what you do and want to do more of what you do. You should think about calling us. You know, all it is 716-837-1112. I don't know why you haven't called us yet. What, you scared to talk? I don't understand. You know,
Jim, you really are on something today.
I'm like, look, listen, people all the time be on the corner, be up in the girl. Let me tell you, bro, hey man, did you come? Let's talk. Listen, if it's good, let's hip everybody. Now, if it's something that we can talk about that too.
That's funny. Just on fire, y'all.
Hey, listen. I knew. They probably said he crazy. Who is that? They're gonna be mad. What you got us tuned into? They got you tuned where you need to be. This is where the truth gets dropped. This is where the vision is expressed. And guess what? It's our truth. This is power. This is look. I often talk about Black Wall Street, but this is how Black Wall Street started out. Getting the word out, people sharing, people in there sharing, getting together, and then the next thing you know, they start dealing with each other, helping each other, stuff that each other knew instead of just going to work for the man, finding out how to turn it into caring for the community and building and spend on little changes between each other. And they didn't try and go for a stranglehold on getting more money than necessary to do a job. It was about love, y'all. And that's how you build community. If we care, and I know we care, I'm just shucking and jiving at you on something. But I'm serious about you ought to call in. I mean, you have something, even if it's a thought, ain't no thought a bad thought. And if it's something that you know is good, if you're willing to tell your friend, you should tell the rest of us who's your friend. I'm your friend, honestly. And I wish you would call me. It breaks my heart if you don't call me. You know who I'm talking to. You know, yeah, you the one. Okay. I love it. No. Yes, Austin is here. Yes, I'm the nice one. Well, we both nice. I'll let him then explain that when we get ready to talk. We get ready to go live. Right? Here we go.
Locally, nationally, it's Conversation with Jim Anderson. And now, your host, Jim Anderson.
Hey, Buffalo, and those who tuned in early. If you want to know how that go, you'll find out more. All you gotta do if you're on Facebook, you can catch us on the earlier part. I mean, it'd be hot. But let me just say hello, Buffalo. Well, the conversation with Jim Anderson. I was gonna say I'm glad to be home, but I'm glad to be back in here with Austin rocking the mic. Even if I hadn't got home, he would have done that. And I just kind of strode on in here because I got in late last night. I wasn't doing nothing bad. No, I was in New York City a couple of days doing some organizing, and my flight didn't get back in till 12:20 last night. So I'm like, I'm in the zone today, y'all. So enjoy today's show. It's open lines. You can call us at 716-837-1112. And look, we got Natasha in the house, so when with lines open, you bring what you got. We're gonna bring what we got, and it's already hot in here. You ought to be in here. But the one thing for sure, you are. But look, I'm not here by myself. Austin is in here. I just said if I hadn't showed up, you know who got the mic.
Good morning, Buffalo. It is Austin Martin. I'm glad to be here today, joined by Jim getting back and Latasha as well.
You call me Latasha?
Check it out.
You better throw me as mom.
Dig it. See, y'all?
We a black mama. We don't ever call us by our first name.
Radio. This is how it go. Yeah, see?
have it be. But that being said, I have something I want to talk about today because I think it's something that's important to understand. Right, we've been talking about the importance of this station, and I know everybody has their own opinions, but let's talk about it and put it into words. To you, Mr. Jim, who's been here and attached to the station for a while, why WUFO?
Well, WUFO really brings the drum beat. And when I say the drum beat, I think about when we often reminisce about how things were in Africa, how did they spread the word? They couldn't go next door. They didn't have none of these cell phone stuff. And it was, different ways, blowing horns, and that drum beat would spread. That would send a message. Now, we today don't always understand it, but they had a system and they understood it. So WUFO is just like that. When it comes to dropping information, needing information about our particular community and about the city as a whole, and as you know now, worldwide, we everywhere. So we talking about everything. But that's the importance of it. This is the drum beat. This is where if you really got a message you want to get out, it'll get out from here. And check it out. When WUFO was just AM, I mean, they were doing it. And the beat is so strong. I mean, with what happens on this radio station, yeah, they had to go to FM. They wanted to be with FM from jump if they could have. And it's hard getting FM stations. And when it opened up, boom, here we are, Power 96. And I'm just saying, the drum beat goes further. And, our owner, manager, and only Black female radio station owner here in Buffalo, here in Western New York. I dare say New York City, but I know the only one, is brilliant beyond Buffalo. And so anyway, the drum beat, that's the key about why WUFO. And that's where it starts. That's why you see it in there when you see Power 96, WFO Mix 1080, because it's got a legacy of its own. It's got a museum that's under development. And you look, it's done launched. You know how many, you don't have to know how many, just know they have launched many DJs. They have moved many people forward. And hey, this is where we get our truth.
Absolutely. And callers again at 716-837-1112. We're moving through conversations. Don't feel afraid to throw your perspective in. But the second question I want to ask, and aside to that, is there's a lot of, in the world we live in now, where there's so much social, before I even get into it, I think we might have
Do we have a caller?
Carly, you are on the air. Hello, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're on.
Okay, this is Grandma Dwight is calling in. No one's calling in. The question I have.
Turn your radio down. Don't listen to your radio.
Tell her turn her Facebook off.
Turn your Facebook off. Don't listen to your Facebook. We got you. Okay, she probably running and turn the Facebook.
Okay, I turned it off.
Okay, now you can
My
roll.
question is, since we got the drum beat going on, are we allowed to talk politics on the station?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, because I know we're last-minute people, and I'm not hearing anybody speaking about the upcoming election for 2024. And I watch CNN a lot and MSNBC, and that's all they're talking about is what's going on with this election. And there's some dangerous stuff that is planning with this election. So I don't hear anybody in the community talking about it.
Well, that's why that's why you call it.
Doing?
Listen.
I think I get one drop in my bill every week for one candidate that's running. And I'm just kind of confused about what's going on.
Okay, listen, now let me tell you what you just said. And you was right. So you didn't hear nobody talking about what's coming up with this election in 2024. And that's why you're here. Because you need to talk about it. It's not to worry or be upset about those who haven't. Whoever got the word and see the way, supposed to bring it forth. So I'm glad you called. And let's Talk to us about the election. I heard you already say some parts about how important it is. Say some more.
It's very important. What I do, I have registrations in my car. I ask people, are you registered? It's not too early to ask people if they're registered to vote because, every 30 days we move. So the people have to know that everywhere you move, you gotta register again. So things like that need to be discussed, to have people know what's going on because it's a dangerous situation going on right now.
Yes, indeed. We agree.
Okay, so I'm going to hang up and I'm going to get back on Facebook.
Okay. Hey, listen, that was a real sweet call. And I tell you why. Austin, we just talked a couple of programs back about pursuing that course. And not just talk about it. It's been a thread in between because we know that the power we need in our community is not just us talking together, but showing our political strength together. But we talked about targeting not only more younger, but as you said, we do need to have the discussion about here's what you need to know. If you haven't registered yet, you have to be registered by a certain date. If you want an absentee ballot, this is what you have to do. Yes, you should check now to make sure you got a voter's ID registration card. And if you don't panic. You can call now and find out if you register. And the other thing you need to know is what are the different elections. Are you talking local? Are you talking state? You're talking national? It's going to be some moves, some threads happening everywhere. It is not just the presidential election. And so I'm not going to go into it deeper. I'm going to shut up because I'm not here by myself. And Madam Caller, that was a good call.
It was. My mom is always up on the. My mom is always talking about current events and things of that nature. And it is important for us to know that because it's not just the presidential election, which brings me back to the question Austin asked, because I know growing up, when I thought of WUFO, honestly, what I thought of with WUFO was gospel music and gospel programming. Mm-hmm. It probably, at that point, the church had a different role mm-hmm. in the community. But as things have progressed and we're in a different place, I guess for this new generation, I guess your question is like for young people who don't really listen to the radio as much, but this is a great pathway on top of what is the shift now that we're on Power 96. That means you're online, you're on WUFO and they do some great things in the community. But I guess for that drum beat, how is this drum beat different? And I guess that's a question I even have for you. Like,
I was going to kind of get into that a little bit. We talk about the drum beat, right? Back in the day, and I wasn't even back in the day. And before I get into that sidebar, I just want to say thank you, Grandma, for calling. She mentioned Grandma Swagger. I'm going to show love.
But they straightened up, man. They was straight. They was attention.
Yeah, we listening. But there's so many drum beats now, right? She mentioned 2 news channels she watches on her own. You have newspapers of every type. Everybody has their own personal blog. Everybody has a social media feed. And so when you talk about a different drum beat, what I wanted to highlight, and I'll let you also elaborate a little bit more on, is the difference from this drum beat versus others is, and we talked about this a little bit on the ride here, is this is the uncensored drum beat. This is the real drums, right? We're not giving you the EDM. We're not giving you the perfected automated. No, we're giving you the flaws sometimes. But those imperfect flaws on the drum set is what makes it complete. Those missed keys on the keyboard is what makes it human. And when you talk about what's important, you can spend all time looking at the fabricated, but it's the human that's going to come true. And so when you say why WUFO, right? If you're a business listening, saying, why should I go with WUFO over somebody else? You're an independent person with a message saying, why should I go with WUFO versus somebody else? I think the value of this station is that it's the truth. And so sometimes, even we may not agree with it, we're always willing to have the conversation. Yeah. And when you look at a bunch of other news media sources, it doesn't have to just be a radio, doesn't have to just be broadcasting at all. When it's fabricated, you don't know how much work goes behind the scenes. If you've never been on the set of a news station, everybody's wearing makeup. Yeah. Your newscaster wearing makeup. I bet you didn't know that. They don't want you to know that. I'm not saying that matters, but I'm saying when there's makeup on, there's no makeup at WUFO. I came in off the wake up. washed up a little bit, brushed my teeth, and came up on a wake up. But this is the truth, and that's why it's so important when you talk about the grassroots, authentic level. You can go with a lot of drum beats, but do you want the true drum beat? And that's what you get here. But I'll let you elaborate a little more on that on your own perspective.
Can I say something else too? I to that point, and I want to do some defense too, because I think people will be quick to judge too. They'll say, well, why Waffle? They might look at some of the aesthetics, right? And they don't realize it's expensive to have a radio station. So when you're so quick to say, well, I went to this station, well, it's a conglomeration. This is independently owned, correct? Am I correct? And when you're independently owned as a business or whatever type of entity, you don't have, when they say they're on a budget, their budget is, well, we got to cut back a couple $100,000, but we still have a pool of $1 million or $500,000 to tap into. When you're independently owned, if people are not paying for media here, they're not doing ads, if they're not these bigger companies putting this in the mix, well, then she doesn't have the privilege to just keep giving. That's some problem sometimes. People want you to give, but they're not willing to invest so that you can reinvest. So that's one of those pieces that I think people are so quick to judge without the understanding of what it takes to be an independent business like a Waffle that's trying to compete with conglomerations that seem like they're independent entities, but they're not.
You got that right.
But this is really an independent entity. So if you are a business trying to support a business, then we need to see that that's how we reinvest. And then other communities come together. So they might not give you money, but they'll come in here and say, let me redo this room for you real quick because I know somebody. I was just having this conversation with a church person. They're like, we don't have new cameras, but we know somebody that can get us stuff. Well, who's coming down here to say I'll redo the booth? Who's saying that? And don't have to be seen. Just do a solid. Who's coming to say I'll redo a booth? Even if it's a bartering situation, is that happening for her? I don't know. But I think those are the things that we should talk about when we say why Waffle.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And boom, Austin. Ow. You dropped the heart. And Latasha, I got to tell you, you hit it right on the head. A lot of people want to come down. Hey, could you do this? They like to talk about, can they get a PSA? Look, the station do a lot of helping and lifting and carrying on, but there's some who have the funds to do the outreach, and they come to the station, want something for free. They don't even come in saying, hey, look, can I get $5 worth of advertisement? And you can't slide in. I mean, the manager know everything that come across this air, as well as knowing everything that come through the room where we have our workers whose job is to get advertising to keep us ticking. And so, it's just even those who run for political office. When you're running for political office, you get a war chest. And that war chest, part of that money is to get the word out about who you is and what you stand for. You buy all these glosses, you do tons of flyers that end up in our streets. And don't get them to all the doors you need to get them. And some people ain't studying their hair because no sooner you hear them walk around the corner and watch where they at.
Right.
When you could come to Waffle, you can hit more doors, a whole lot of wares to get your message out. So it'll be buzzing about who you are. You ain't just got to pop up all of a sudden. You'll be known. And, this uniqueness of a station like this, there are stations that they're Korean stations, they're Chinese, they're Polish. All these different ethnicities have radio program that cater to them. That ain't nothing wrong with it. And just because we play to the dominance of our community, and look, there's nothing wrong with being pro-self. It doesn't mean you anti anybody else. And that's what people need to understand. Caller, you're on the phone. Welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm Herb Bellamy. How you doing today?
All right, Herb. Yes, sir. We're doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I heard the question. Someone said, "Why support Waffle?"
Yeah.
Sheila Brown is a wonderful general manager.
Say it.
Our preachers in the choir. I have a radio show there, and we've been working together ever since its inception that she's been there. And we have to continue to support Black America.
Yes, indeed. That's it. Look, that's how we're going to get to being what often people say, Black Wall Street. We have the capability in so many avenues.
As you know, as being the president of Black Achievers, we produce leaders every year. And I'm still amazed of how many people are doing so many great things in our community. And if we don't tell our story won't get told.
That's right. And this is, and this is the drum beat where, people get a lift off, a kick, and get the word out that they got a story so everybody know, oh, going over there to check it out. People who don't know the legacy of this station and its uniqueness, as they begin to learn the truth about history in Buffalo, this is the place to check out. If they haven't checked out WUFO Power 96.5, it is a little deficit in their life. I don't think you would. Look, you know how some of these restaurants, they tell you got to go to when you come into Buffalo? If you need people the same way, look, you're looking at two twins down here. The Colored Musician Club and WUFO. WUFO, before it got here, already had a legacy. The Colored Museum, having been in there, has a legacy. And I'm saying, you got legacy down here, you got the church, and I'm just saying, the area itself, if people knew what it represents, let's go back to early organizing. Let's go back when you talk about some of the greats in our history that eventually came together and formed. We read about them, but we don't study what they did. They came together. Oh, we could come together. What they do, they reasoned together and came out with a plan. We could do that. I'm just saying. Herb, I'm sorry, you got it.
Well, I am so glad that you guys are on the radio, and we should continue to support WUFO and our Black community and our Black leaders, because if we don't do it, it won't get done. And continue to share the wonderful stories and the positive stories.
Yeah.
Positive stories don't sell.
That's
so
right.
We continue to share those positive stories of African Americans on WUFO as well.
A decade. Well, thank you for weighing in, and
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it, and that's true. Definitely need to do the work ourselves, because clearly it's not easy. It's not going to be given to anybody. Most things in life aren't given to anybody, but if you want to see a change, like we always say, you got to work for it. So being willing to invest, and not just willing to invest, but be there, be present, call in like you're doing, is necessary for us to keep doing what we're doing. So it's a thank you in both ways.
yeah.
All right, have a great day, all of you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Austin, you're raising the question. I hope people see another layer. Austin is a young man who raised a profound question, because I want you to think about the multi-numbers of young men and young women who are in our community saying, why WUFO?
Why WUFO? It's a good point. Now, I know we got some more callers. I hear the phone line buzzing off. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Hey, Dr. Doyle.
Yes, this is Dr. Doyle calling. Good morning, Ms. Anderson.
Hello, hi.
I want to respond to your question. As a former radio host on WUFO, I can speak to the value of this radio station. I had a radio show on WUFO called Eye on History for 14 straight years without interruption. And I retired from the show a few years ago, and I want to thank Sheila Brown for her support of my show the entire time I was on WUFO.
Mm-hmm.
And when I published my 12th book, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Brown, she interviewed me, and she supported me, and she talked about my show.
Nice.
WUFO has a variety of talk shows. I listen to every one of them.
I know, yes.
And I'm a newspaper columnist.
Yes, indeed.
We're the oldest Black newspaper in Western New York, the criteria. I have to keep up with what's going on in the world and in Western New York. So I listen to WAFO. And I want to say this. When you call other stations, they don't just put you on. They scrutinize your calls.
Mm.
And if you don't say the right thing, they'll cut you off.
Mm-hmm. Say it.
And I want to, I could talk about WAFO forever and ever. But I want to end with this.
Mm-hmm.
I have done more than 100 essay contests for young people and adults.
Yes, indeed.
And one day, I got a call from a man in Eastern Europe who heard WAFO.
Wow.
And he entered my contest.
Mm.
And you know what, Mr. Anderson?
Mm.
He won.
Whoa! Whoa!
So I want to make this announcement. I'm writing my 13th book. It will be published in about 2 months. And in that book, it talks about my journey as a teacher, a columnist, and I mentioned WAFO in that book. So look out for that book, Mr. Anderson.
All right.
And so I just wanted everybody to know WAFO is a jewel. It's
Yes,
a treasure
indeed.
in our community.
And you too are a jewel. Thank you, Dr. Dorr.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're going back to back. We might have another caller right after. Thank you for that. Caller, you are on the air.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today?
Marvelous. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm a year wiser, not a year older. I'm a year wiser.
Okay. Keep on rising.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, today's my birthday. But
Happy birthday.
thank you. There's two things I want to talk about. WAFO is priceless because they, what you call it, know that African Americans / Blacks are priceless. They is on top of everything that got to do with Black.
Mm.
And I really respect that, and so do other people. But this is one of the things I want to talk about. Okay, crime, politics, yeah, but those foreigners are coming over here, talking with some of them. Soon as they get here, they're getting welfare, they're getting food stamps and Medicaid. Now we got to go through all of this, born and raised over here. Well, our ancestors got kidnapped and were brought over here and built America. And the main thing I'm talking about, that's why everything is going up so high. And I would just like talking to, a few of them, like I said again, no. We come over here, they pay for our hotel, they pay, the rent, they give us food stamps, they give us Medicaid and stuff like that, public assistance. That's why everything is going so high now. The gas, electric, is rent. They taking their money from us to help take care of the foreigners coming over here. Now, a while back, when I was a leasing agent, I never forgot that. When I was working at, they was from Africa. They would come over here. And they got everything that, the foreigners getting out of cash, public cash assistance, food stamps, and Medicaid. But they would get $300 a month. For 3 months, why are y'all getting that? Oh, this restitution. I'm like, no, our restitution is over here. And we never, ever got that. And the main thing, that's why everything is going up so high, gas and electric paying for them. But ain't nobody paying that no attention. And I just wanted to bring that to the light.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And you're making some bold statements. And here's the measure and the balance I want you to look at it in. I want you, that very first call we got from the very first call that talked about we're not talking enough about the election coming up. And the other thing I want to talk about, add to that, is that as you talk about who's getting what and who's not getting, and there's a lot of truth in it, and now we have to dial in much sharper to understand the truth that is within it. We know that there are people getting things that others haven't got, But what is not known exactly is what is the mechanism that provides that. And that's connected to politics. You know, none of our congressional leaders, none of our state leaders have come back and held a town hall to talk to us about why the money flows that way to them and seemingly don't flow away to us. You hear? And this is all politics. And this is one of the things where we have to become wiser, because what you were talking about also expresses love. But here's what I want you to do with that love. I want you to make it much more robust and much more arm stretching to take in more. And when I say take in more, is to remember that those who are coming to our shores from wherever they come is still flesh and blood like us. And at the same time, when we have a government that is undermining our best interests and our livelihood, and yet seems to be investing in others, of course it's going to create some friction because of the absence of understanding. So what need we do? We need to demand that our electeds who seem to like to get in front and talk about how much money they're delivering to that cause is to explain to us how they're able to do it for that cause and not ours. But we haven't made those demands. In fact, if we trickle it on down to local government, the same way we should be making the demand on our federal reps is the same thing we should be doing with our local reps. Not to let them slide by saying things that sound good, but the people on the ground know, nah, something wrong with that picture. I understand how they can do that and can't do this. We got this. So I want you, you hit the right issue, but I want you to expand your love to embrace them anyway. And we're going to work on finding out how come. And we're going to take this up again, okay? You think about it, and we want to talk about it again. We got to go to a commercial, and peace and love. Thank you for sharing that.
Say good day.
Najee, I was going to use, if we were all on a basketball team, the live can get this one. If we're all on a basketball team, we all want to play basketball. There's a guy on the team that plays my position who's ahead of me on the floor playing. I'm on the bench. Am I going to get mad at that player or the coach? Because the player can't put me in, the coach can. So you're going to fight the player,
right?
But then you can be the player all you want. But the one person that can say you're subbed in is the coach. So we need to turn our anger from the players that are ahead of us to the coach. That's all I was going to say.
Right, that's right. And you should still bring it up when you come back on, picking up on that point.
And the question I want to ask, the follow-up question that was after the first question of why wealth, we talked about this unbiased filtering sheet information to the community. I want to ask you, but why is that important? Why is making sure that we get unbiased, unfiltered information that's on the heart of the community? Why is that so important? Because a lot of stations, a lot of people online can say they have a touch in the community, but why does that matter? We talk a lot on investing into the community, seeking to the community, but why is investing into the community why is that important to me, right? If I'm a person who, let's say I didn't have kids, let's say I was just a person who's resident in the community, you're talking about seeding into the youth, seeding into the community. Why? Now, we know why, but talking about that, raising those questions, I think when we talked about not only getting guests, but justifying on the business side, that's what I'm looking at this a lot on, is justifying the business side of bringing those guests on. These type of conversations, we're talking about the value of it and why specifically us, but not only us, but us and what we're doing is how we then justify when we come in and say, hey, look, we know you want to go on the air, but it's going to be this much. Yeah, this is what we bring into the table. We're not coming empty here.
Yeah. Folks need to understand, because everybody that call in, I'm sure some of them would want to be on air, and but they don't understand what it means, and the safeguard, you have to ensure that the message is something that resonates with the community. We serve up a smorgasbord. I mean, there's something we don't say we can't talk about anything. And so their subject comes across. Some of what they want to say is only a question length, not a conversation length. Right. And again, who are they representing? Because if you take just individual, I mean, you got organizations. You flow with how you.
All right, I'm gonna start with the analogy.
There's a microphone, please.
Are we right back? Okay, we're right back on air. I want to just pick up after the call. I didn't get a chance to respond. This is Austin. What I wanted to say is this analogy. We're all on a basketball team. We all want to play basketball. That's why we're here, right? And I'm on the bench. And there's someone ahead of me starting. They're playing, and I'm on the bench watching. And I'm not on the bench because I'm bad. I'm on the bench, but I worked, right? I was in practice. I worked to do the groundwork because that's the people we're talking about, us, the Black people. We worked to build this up. And we're on the bench watching. Now, does it make more sense for me as a person on the bench to be mad at the player ahead of me or to be mad at the coach? Because as much as I could want to be mad at that player and I could beat him up after the game and the only person who can put me in that game is the coach. So while we're really here yelling and complaining about other players in the game, look at who created the game, right? We talk about the misuse or dispersion of funds. Who's dispersing the funds, right? These are where we got to kind of change our mindsets from. And like Jim said, when you look at the first caller, my grandma, she was talking about is the importance of it. When you understand the value of politics are all the things that we're crying about. It's the person who oversees it. And what they want you to do is they want us to fight amongst ourselves. Like immigrants over here are living in splendor, just mansions galore. No. None of us are happy. I'm not happy I got kicked out of my country, and I'm not happy because the country I live in doesn't feel like my country. So if we're both upset, does it make more sense for us to squabble amongst ourselves or look at the people who are controlling the game itself? That's all I'm saying, and how I think when we're talking about look at the bigger picture, there's just some deeper levels past it. And if we just continue spending time attacking groups, we're not going to get much further, because what do those groups have to offer us anyways? Not value. I'm saying not bringing value to the country. I'm saying if they're getting the same, if they're getting handouts, we're clearly in a similar position.
Well, the question is, where are we going? Right? So we're getting mad at the people for playing the game, but we're not even asking a question. We're just casting an opinion on what we think we see. And you check me on that all the time, Austin. You're always like, don't make an assumption because you don't know. Right? So I have never gone to someone like I'm getting mad at the corner store, right? Or I'm getting mad because they go to Aldi's and they pull their money together, and go to Aldi's, go to Sam's Club, get a U-Haul truck. It'll be given in a couple weeks, and then retail it everywhere. But are we coming together, having conversations? Because we all want to be the big chief.
Right.
That's not an all statement. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, right.
Shouldn't say the all statement. But many times when I'm trying to partner and collaborate, everybody wants to be the head. I just saw a beautiful demonstration even this weekend. There was a young man who launched a church, and he tapped into all of these communities. And so people were watching and saying, well, what denomination? He had people from different types of denominations all coming to celebrate him. Why? Because he's partnered with all these people who were musicians. They weren't saying denomination, they said musicians. So how often do we come together? Because you talk about that, and I think you're talking about that too, the community door.
Right.
Like we all mad about the coach.
Other people,
We don't even know what questions to ask. So I'm gonna stop talking. Austin, I want to hear your perspective on coming together.
I think it's speaking to the heart, right? Speaking to the value of it. And I think when people can relate to things deeper, the broader you make them. So to explain that a little better, right? Everybody here can't understand what it's like, and I'm going to use my example, when I had my first ever speech, right? And I got to speak at that event. A lot of people that haven't done that can't relate to that. You know what they can relate to? Being fearful, being nervous. Right. And so when I say I was fearful on that stage, you don't have to have been on the stage to know what fear feels like. Right. And so we can relate to something deeper. We can take away all our biases, scrape them down. What I call is blank slate. Make it a blank slate. Take out all the names and drama. If you just put it in its core sense, a person went on stage and was nervous. Everybody knows what being nervous is like. And so when you talk about how do we unite people, everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to provide for their family. Everybody wants the things they feel like they're deserving of. And so how do we unite around those things instead of uniting around superficial things? Me and you having a BMW don't mean we close. And bump that.
To me though.
Me and you had a BMW don't mean you close and see the same. Me and you both being black doesn't mean we see the same. Right? Me and you both being from the same neighborhood, the same block don't mean we're the same. But how can we unite on things that are deeper? You know why? Because I can change how I look. I can change where I live. But you can't change what fear feels like. You can't change being human. You can't change what disgust feels like. You can't change what regret feels like. And so when we unite around things that are deeper than surface level, the divisions we want, If we stop dividing ourselves by superficial things, start looking at ourselves as, like you said, flesh and blood, that's how you unite. Because what we'll do is we'll push away someone who's perfect for our team because they don't fit some criteria we made up. Oh, I would love to work with you to fix the Black community, but you're not even Black. Does that matter? Or do we just want to be successful? I would love to work with you to build up my house, but you don't wear the clothes I wear. Does that matter? Or do you want a fixed house? And so these are the questions we have to ask ourselves when we talk about uniting. When you said, where are we going? What are we uniting for? Are you here because you're hurt? Or are you here because you look like me? Because there's a difference. And I can't no longer be around people who just are here because the vibes. That doesn't work. I need you because you're here. If I wasn't here, would you still be here? If I wasn't speaking, would you still speak up? Those are the people I want on my team. Because if I'm around a bunch of people on a team who I can't support, I got to be looking 360 if I can't trust you to have my back.
And it's not a team.
It's not a team.
You don't just go along and get along. There's a thing where there's accountability that all of us got value. And when in communities, when you set a value, this is how we get along. In the first place is respect all humanity. I didn't make that up. The one that made all of us set that up. And I like to argue that, those who read, one of them good holy books like that, the one called the Bible, and I'm sure it has a version somewhere else in other books, but it talks about when, particularly the part where they talk about Christ was out teaching, healing, preaching, and everything. And they said, here come your mother and your brother. And he said, who is my mother and my brother, except the one who does the will of my Father, which is in heaven. And I argued that he gave a new definition of relationship. See, it's the one who's working to build and bring about what you're doing that you have more kinship with, which is what you just said. You gonna help me build a house, or you just look at because I got slant eye, or my skin color is shade dark, or whatever. It's the one who is working to build better for humanity. And the beauty about just listening to you, Austin, is what gives me all this man, I feel like I've been loaded up with energy for the future, because when I hear young people like you talk, it reassures me that among young people, there's more understanding of the connectedness of humanity without all these false images blocking them out of the way, without what some individual may choose on how they present themselves. Y'all grooving. And even within the groove, y'all have a value line. You just pointed out one. You can't deal with somebody who is not like in that team spirit with you. Teams look out for each other. You can't have it where you got to wonder if somebody with me or not. And so, your generation makes me feel good. A lot of older folks like to say, I don't know what's going to become of this younger generation. Look, y'all the bearers of the new knowledge, the new skills, and the new energy. There are some things I would say your generation has to learn, and you're in that cycle right now of how to break away from apron strings, because we all want to please our parents. But there's also that given to you in your own, what you learn and know for how you have to express it. And just like y'all bring in these new methodologies of expressing communication in some unique way, different from what some older folk would say, why y'all talk like that? And forget how they used to talk, and the generation there before them would say, why y'all talk like that? But I'm just saying, it's beautiful. It's what life is about. And it's still about always having that expanded love to extend it. Even, and the book tells us, even to the one you don't necessarily like, say pray for them. And so I'm just saying, I know life can be hard for some people. I know some people say, well, you don't know what they did to me. You're still living, right? You got another chance to do something to make them better. I'm not talking about what we're talking about, criminal acts and stuff. But I'm talking about some of these petty arguments, get into, build a wall higher than walls are, and don't never deal with them. It's about a greater love. You can't just have the word. You got to have the body expression of it. Hey, listen, Mama set it off.
The analogy I'm gonna just use is because we can all understand this. It's one thing to give someone advice. It's one thing to convince somebody to take your advice. And I think where a lot of people are in the business of giving advice, but I am not in the business of convincing you to take it. And that's just the difference. When you're dealing with people, you want to deal with people who want advice, not who need to be convinced that the advice is good. Because I'm not gonna go back and forth with you and convince you. Because if I'm convincing you, you're not fully on board. And like you said, the position we're in, Black, immigrant, whatever, the position that we're in, the cards that we've been dealt, I can't be looking back seeing if you're halfway in the boat, halfway out the boat. We got to be moving.
That's
and
right.
I need you fully rowing down this river with me. So
Right.
it's just a different mindset. I think and you talk about the youth. I think it's just we're now we're the generation after. We've seen our parents try it. We've seen our parents try it the way that we talk about. Let's try and just see it, hope everybody votes, and let's just try to see people that look like us, and it doesn't work. And so when you talk about the importance of making a change, and this is the question I even wanted to ask you. In the beginning of the interview, we talked about the value of WUFO. The value of WUFO is the unfiltered truth that the community needs to hear. And I want to ask you, why is that so important? Why is it important that the community hears an unfiltered truth that's relatable to the area that they're living in?
Well, I think two things that I would point out in that. One is those who want to run for political office, if you're not dropping your message across WUFO, then you're not serious, especially when you have to deal with constituents in the area which you're running. And I'm not just talking about at the councilman level. I'm just talking about if you're running for political office and you don't come across WUFO, something wrong with that picture, because who are you? What's your message? Who do you represent? Do you listen to feedback from the people? You can get it here. Some folks run based on personality and image, name recognition. It ain't that. It's what's your plan, and you need to come talk about it. And so anybody that don't do that is suspect to me. It should be to the community, But here's the other thing I want to talk about. That's something that's in play right now. Buffalo Bills Stadium. Right now, the ton of money that is available and those who are working on it. Now, I need the community to talk about whether they've heard conversation from the many folks who have some kind of contractual relationship or call themselves working on behalf of that stadium. I've heard three voices. Patrick Freeman, County Legislator Leader April Baskin, and community labor organizer and contractor Frank Daniel. I've seen a list of names of people who are supposedly in those meetings with Frank Daniel. And, recently I sent out, I won't rat them out. No, I am going to rat them out. So I sent out an email in the email that we all were on thread. I sent to them, inviting them to come on and talk about what's their part around the Buffalo Bills Stadium. Because if you have been contracted to do something for the community, seems like you should want the community to know. Now, I don't know, maybe a whole lot of other people know, and that's why I say community. If you know, you can bring us up to speed. But I do think voices like Larry Stitt, I do think voices like my brother over at the Urban League, I do think voices like another brother or a pastor, Reverend Blue, should be blowing up the information about what are they doing. I'm just saying I ran into a lot of people who asked about them in different ways, and it leaves me suspect. I don't have anything I can say. I would love to say. I would love for us to render these airtimes over to them. I would wish they would, I don't know, if they don't want to come on the show, take out that big advertisement talking about what are you doing and what's available. And I would love to have in the room Frank Daniels and them, because they're all doing the same work at the intersection of supposedly getting people on. And, I would like to do, used to have a business next door, Thurman Thomas, to drop on by too. these voices of color that are involved in this to be too invisible and too silent, this is where you need to be. And this is the thing about WUFL. I can talk with power because I know about my community. And WUFL can bring it because we bring it true. And whatever I say that's wrong, that's why we have open lines too. People can push back and say, no, you need to delete that part, and upload this. Here's where we at. This is the point where we share community.
I think that two things I'm gonna touch on. The first thing you said is so true. I think that because we established that WUFL is a place where you're gonna get the unfiltered truth and you get the call-ins different than other stations where they filter it. You're gonna get the authentic call-ins. Like you said, if you're serious about something, if you have a watertight issue that you know you're really experienced on, why would you not go to the place that has the most fire, that's gonna give you the most pushback? Because that proves, yo, man, I know what I'm talking about. This is the place where you can get your the hot seat. And you need that, because then when you're sitting in other interviews, it's like, bro, this is cold. This is nothing, because I've already went through the flames in the trial. And so even though I know I've heard people say this, WUFL was a hard station, they go hard on different groups of people. Well, if you're dealing with a lot of power, comes with a lot of responsibility, and to wield that responsibility in the right way requires you to have known and be experienced to all the aspects of it, all the criticisms, all the people who agree otherwise, and to address those is to show, like you said, that I'm serious. And it's hard to take someone serious when they won't prove that they're serious. And proving you're serious is saying, I'm going to go to whatever avenues I can, wherever people don't agree with what I'm talking about, and help them understand why they should. And second, what you talked about with the stadium. Now, I want to speak on this from a different perspective, because I'm not a contractor. I don't follow the Buffalo Bills. I don't live in Orchard Park. So I really have nothing to do with this stadium, but why is the stadium important? And if you were a listener of the times that we talked about the stadium 2 times, I was in the booth, but I was probably very quiet because I wasn't sure exactly what my expertise was, because like I said, I'm not a contractor. I'm not a Buffalo Bills fan. I don't live in Orchard Park. What I will tell you is this: how you do one thing is how you do everything. The same person that gets up with the discipline to make their bed every day probably has a neat car, probably has good on top of their laundry, because, as we say it in my house, discipline begets discipline. Let's look at it another way. If you see someone who has money, how easy it is to make money with nothing? It's hard when you're trying to come from the bottom. But once you have a little bit of wealth, you can start investing. Wealth begets wealth. Wealth equals more wealth. In the same way we talk about politics. It's money on the table. Let's take the Bills out of it, stadium out of it, every name out of it. It's money on the table to be gotten by us. And we can't even argue the money that's supposed to be given to us. Let's say you're a nurse. How do you think you're ever going to get changes in the nurse system? Let's say you're a teacher. How are you ever going to make changes in the teacher system? Let's say you're an athlete. How are you ever going to get changes in the athletic system if we can't come together for money on the table? Money on the table, millions, billions of dollars that are supposed to be allotted to a certain group of people. They're supposed to be part of that money that's supposed to be given to us, and we can't even get it when it's on the table. If you can't unite when it's on the table, God help you when it's not.
Oh, yeah.
God help you when it's not. And so the importance of the Bills Stadium is not the Bills Stadium. It's not the money, but it's the principle. If we can't unite when it's easy, we are in trouble when it's hard. And I'm sorry, it's looking like it's going to be difficult. Yeah. It's difficult now. And so the way we unite for this is how you unite for everything. If people can't come out and unite behind money, you can't unite when we're already paving the way. I'm just saying it's the bigger principle. And when you talk about uniting people, I may not be able to be united because I'm not a contractor, or I don't live in Orchard Park and I'm not a Bills fan. But you can unite me by saying how we fight for this is the same way we're going to fight for you. So sometimes you got to fight for others first.
Yeah.
But guess what? If you're a firefighter, you can fight fires every day. There might be a day when your house is on fire. Man, you're going to want everybody to run the same way you ran to their house, the same way they run to yours. And so let's run. Let's run and let's be serious. And let's stop walking with a bucket of water at a burning house, because the fire is spreading. And we all live on the same block. So that's all I have to say on the importance of that.
Listen, you look, you bringing it. Team, a real team huddles.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, we didn't talk about running a no huddle play. We're talking about the money is there. We need to know who going out for the pass, who running the end run, or what kind of play we running. And so, yes, Reverend Blue, yes, Mr. Urban League, Thomas Bruford, Tom, come on. You owe me one. We got, well, you should come on. You and Larry Stitt, come on. We should be in a huddle to ensure that our team win. You know who our team? Our community. That's all I'm saying.
And can I ask you a question? I know we might be moving out on time, but you tell me, we talk about investing in the community. When you say our team wins, why is it important that we invest in the community? If you can answer that shortly.
If we want to see changes, if we want to see what the steps of what Black Wall Street is, you already said it builds investment wealth, builds wealth, and attracts more wealth. And if we have some money to get that working in our community, you're going to see it visibly. People are going to express it in their spirit. They got a little something that they can do something with in their pocket. We're not talking about making millionaires, although some will, because when you're talking about 400 million and not talking about the other money that is possibly available, I'm just saying, we're going to have, by the way, the county legislature, April Baskin will be on in October 8th, and giving an update, because on October 5th, there's some kind of big meeting around this in the council. But we need to keep people on those who are in the community and who are in the community who are part playing some role at the intersection and ain't saying nothing. Why is that? Anyway, I'm just saying.
So every time you tap your pockets and they feeling a little light, I want you to remember that the same people that don't come on WUF are the people that we need to be talking to.
That's
we need to get
right.
in front of, because when money goes into one thing, it comes for us all. So if you want success, not only your communities, but just not only for you, but for your kids, for your neighbors, for the people that you live with that are in your situation, if you want to change that, that involves coming out to fight for the Bill Stadium. That involves getting people that you need to hear from on WUFO, because those are the steps that we need to make that change. So when I asked you in the beginning to bring it all around, the value of WUFO, the value of WUFO is the value of us. And the more we can push into this station in the right way, the more we're advocating for ourselves. So just look out for y'all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I got for today.
Peace and love, people. You sure shared a whole lot. And Latasha, thank you. And community, thank you. Listen, I hope y'all picked up the spirit of two particular voices, because they had some time on the planet. And that was Mama on the first one, and that was Dr. Doyle. We're not talking, they're not kids. We talked with some folks where they were pointing is where this whole conversation is went. And particularly, I love raising the concern about those who are coming to our shores and how we should see them and some things that make us all go home. We talked about how we can deal with it. Thank you. And tune in next week. More medicine. And if we take it, we're going to get well. And we are. Peace and love.